Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sheila Singham, and I'm the founder of Human Equation, a company that's involved in learning and development in the learning and development arena. Today, I am going to be the moderator for this session on education under lockdown, how it has been, how have universities been coping, how have the faculty members been coping, how do students perceive this whole new experience of learning under lockdown. And we have with us our panelists today, Dr. Sharon Wilson, who is assistant professor and a deputy chairperson from the Center of Learning and Development, University Tunku Abdul Rahman. Dr. Sharon, would you like to wave at the audience?
Hi, everybody.
Okay. I also have Dr. Sina Biju, who's a professor and dean of the School of Management and Business of Manipal International University. Doctor, welcome.
Hi, thank you for
And
having me on board.
I've got Baldi Hulan, who is also known as Belle, and we'll be calling her Belle. So she is recently returned from New Zealand, a graduate in writing, and she's now enrolled in a University of London LLB program at a local education facility. So ladies, thank you very much for agreeing to join us today. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first question, which I'm going to address to the ladies, the academics. How has your university coped with the recent lockdown? What impact did it have on the university overall? Maybe I'll address that to Dr. Sina first.
Okay, so happy to take that question. If I have to talk about Manipal University, honestly, the transition was very quick, and it struck us. While we did foresee that the world was moving from the normal blackboard to an isolation, but the requirement for us to adapt to the virtual platforms had to be done very quickly. And one thing that worked in the advantage of our university was that our semester was due to start at the end of March. And this whole lockdown process and the fact that we may be shifting to virtual platforms, we started thinking about it as early as mid-February. So it gave us a good 1 month to kind of train our faculty members and to tell them, hey, look, this is going to happen. And therefore, we may want to, know what are the various platforms. So we started off with WebEx and Zoom, and then we slowly moved on to Microsoft Teams with continuous training one after the other. So there was a lot of training that went into teaching how the faculty must adapt themselves. So honestly, quite honestly, most of us are very comfortable with Blackboard, and we didn't really think we will have to, switch to an online platform. But some of our faculty already have been training and teaching on online platforms. So there was a lot of peer learning happening. There was a lot of, and we also have our online university, the Global Next University, that provides degrees and training online. So we had some of them step in and train us on this. And so in phases, we were trained first how to conduct classes, then how to conduct examinations, then how to interact while classes are happening. And so bit by bit now we are full-fledged. And then you have these reiteration trainings also. So in the last 4 months, we've had close to 8 to 9 training sessions. And we are almost coming to the end of this semester, which will finish in June. I think the faculty have spent a good lot of time being trained, and I think the university was quite ahead in taking those initiatives on time. It was challenging, nevertheless, because some of us did have challenges with technology in terms of connectivity, in terms of having a laptop at home, and stuff like that. But we kind of managed that.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Dr. Sharon, what about your university?
Okay, so at University Tunku Abdul Rahman, and coming from also the Center for Learning and Teaching, CLT, we've had to train a lot of our staff, but this has been going on even before the MCO, because the university had taken a very huge step into teaching staff on flipped classroom and blended learning that had been incorporated into our programs. So a lot of the staff at Utah had already familiarized themselves with different softwares, different tools. Now, when this thing happened, we were smack in the middle of our semester. And so we had to respond like the emergency response unit. We had to quickly come in and do whatever that needed to do. So the faculty, belonging to the Faculty of Creative Industries, we were again very familiar with the different technologies. So a lot of us moved on to Zoom, for example, and then slowly moved on to Microsoft Teams. So the online modes of learning and teaching was something that we were very comfortable, and we had already kind of like, it was a buffer for us because we had already implemented it into our syllabus slowly, because we have a 30% element that we can incorporate into our syllabus. So that had been, it was like a natural progression into what was happening right now.
Okay, so basically looking at, looks like many of you were prepared in the university, already been doing this, at least from a blended approach and so on. Did you have any faculty members who just went, like, oh my God, what am I going to do, now that we have to teach online? Or was everybody already prepared? Did you have people who were mildly resistant or got left behind? How did that happen? Yeah, Dr. Sharon?
Okay, so we still have a lot of staff who are still having difficulty adapting to these technologies, using the right software, using the right application, using the right devices. And they could just rely on a basic program like PowerPoint, for example. So they had a problem adapting, because we must remember we are not digital natives, unlike our students. And so we have a kind of shortcoming. So for these particular academics, it was tough. But that is the reason why, even right now, we still have online trainings for those who cannot cope with teaching online. So what we tell them is, it is not necessary that you need to use a very advanced program or a device or a software. Use something that's already there, but improve on it or be an expert in it. Yeah.
Dr. Sina, you yourself, navigating all those tools and all that, how did you find that?
Yes, so I'd completely agree with Dr. Sheila when she says that yes, faculty did find it challenging. Like, we about 40% of us are all above the age of 35, 40, who, are not very comfortable, or we've spent a substantial amount of our time interacting. We need the touch and feel of the class, and we kind of don't feel complete when you go to a class, and talking talking to a screen was not something that I think most of us were mentally prepared for.
Yes.
And it took a lot of, I think, and I must, put it on record that I think the faculty did a fantastic job in adapting themselves very well. Something I think the rest of the industries don't really know about us academicians, and I hope I'm not blowing my own trumpet. But we are known to be more on the on the back foot, and we're very comfortable with the rest of our lives, and But I think this was one time which I think the academics took it as a huge opportunity and stepped up to what was immediately required. And I must give it to some of the faculty members who were very quick in adapting. Yes, like how Dr. Sheila says, there were a lot of difficulties. Definitely, there were a lot of difficulties. I'm sorry, Dr. Sharon. I'm sorry, this is Dr. Sharon who mentioned. There were difficulties about learning how to maneuver through the platform. And to be asked me, and I'll tell you, I was pretty intimidated when I looked at all these little icons on the screen and not really knowing which part of the screen that I must go to, and where I should look for a chat and where I should look for a file upload. But the faculty members did step up. Yeah, challenges were there. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Sina. Let's talk to the millennial here, the person on the other side of the divide, the ones to whom faculty members like you are delivering to bell. How did you cope with all of this? How did you cope with having to go totally digital? I'm sure when you came back and you signed up and you thought, oh, I'm going to university for lectures, and bang, suddenly you're told that it's all going to be online. So tell us about your experience.
To start with, I'm really grateful I don't have to pay for parking. That's been a huge relief. But on the flip side, there's something about a classroom. Maybe because I'm an older student, I'm 25, nearly 26. I've done university in a traditional lecture hall, and that's what I'm familiar with. But the university made it really easy to adapt. Everything that you guys are doing to make it as seamless as possible is clearly working, because you just hop on the iPad or on the laptop. The lecturer is there explaining everything you need to know. It was very seamless integration, especially for someone who has only just started a degree in April. There were no complications really. Like, it was just very seamless. You have a good internet connection, you have a good device, it's sorted. But I'm not going to lie, I miss the classroom. I miss the classroom a lot.
Okay, so having said that, Belle, if let's say you were asked to choose now between just going solely on a digital platform or blended platform, maybe when it's safer to do some digital and some go back to classroom, or go back to the classroom totally, which would be your preference?
I think there's some things where you just need the human interaction one-on-one in person. So to me, a blended learning and really utilizes and harnesses the power of both digital and in-person education. So in my opinion, there is no yes or no. It can't be only one. It has to be a combination of both being harnessed. So
Right.
to be quite honest with you, I would prefer a blended learning experience.
Good. Yeah, I think, I'm just thinking before all of this started, a lot of people were saying, oh, we can't do our work digitally. We lots of sectors, but because needs must, we've all had to do it. I mean, personally, I'm in the training and development field, and I can tell you that we've all had to pivot. And I've actually also signed up for an online course on how to navigate, because I'm doing a lot of older people, people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s even. So keeping their attention going is harder than I think doing it with students who really need to attend the lectures because they need to go and sit for their exams and so on. Now, the next question I'd like to ask, and this is actually applicable to all of you, also to you, Belle, which I'll address you later, the question to you later. What concerns did parents or students express about this switch to total digital learning? See, I'm saying that when they signed up for this program or signed their children up and paid the fees, it was the expectation that they were going to have this whole experience going into campus, having lots of activities, and suddenly everything's gone digital. So how have they sort of expressed, what concerns, what have they expressed about this?
Very perfectly put, actually. Parents are very concerned about the quality of the learning that the students are going through. So this is coming from two ends. One is especially those programs that are lab oriented, especially the engineering courses, the mass comm courses, the architecture courses. So students in these kind of programs, the parents were a little worried about how things are going to span out. So we've had our continuous interactions with the parents, and we've assured them that we, as much as we want things to come back to normal, we are very much helpless. We would want them to be back in the campus, but the risks of bringing them back into the laboratories and then getting them infected would be far higher than actually running the course. So we've brought out certain strategies out there. But on a very informal note, we've had a lot of other comments that come in from parents. Number one is, yes, the connectivity. How do there are remote areas in the country where students are not able to stay connected because of lack of Wi-Fi or no towers. I mean, I myself have one of my faculty members who does not have a tower close to her house. So therefore, what she does is drives her car out, goes to a shopping mall close to a tower, conducts her classes through her car. That's how far faculty members, and I'm sure many faculty members are doing these kind of things. And some of the other challenges that the parents have brought to our notice is that the students themselves have a time management problem. By design, the academia had kind of infused a sense of time and discipline into the students when they get into a class, when they get out of the class. Now the students are having to manage that on their own, and to be able to not be distracted, to stay focused, and to sit in front of the system for 6 hours or 5 hours and attend all their classes. Parents have said that there's a bit of a challenge, and both they and we are helpless in taking care of that. Money definitely was one of the matters that came up as a discussion, and it's quite a sensitive one as well. But we had to kind of convince most of the time that this is our offering and this is as best as we can. We just don't want to be left out. One other option would be to just close the university and not have the semester at all. But that definitely is not viable, because we have no idea how long this MCO is going to continue.
Yep.
And so we will have to slowly, steadily transition into this blended learning. And something tells me that, and I'm sure the other in fact, Sharon will agree with me that this is here to stay. Blended learning is here to stay. And I think we are on track and we are progressing well, and parents are also aligning themselves to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Sharon, and on your part?
Yeah, I think the biggest concerns that parents and students had about this online learning is, firstly, the university was updating parents and students about what was happening constantly. So parents and students were always in the know about the steps that were taken. So, but the biggest issue that we faced as academics was whether students had access to the internet or Wi-Fi. So what we did in the beginning was we actually reached out to our students to find out who were the students who did not have internet connectivity. And when we identified those students, we actually tried our best to actually take certain procedures to help them out. So we have asynchronous and synchronous learning, where it would accommodate both sets of students. So that was the biggest worry, whether they could connect or not. The second one, because we were in the middle of the semester, a lot of parents and students were concerned about the exams, whether their students would be able to sit for the exams or not. And again, we had to assure the students that, a lot of rules, we had to throw the rule book out, because we could no longer bar students if they were absent from classes.
Absolutely.
Because they were no longer physically in our classrooms.
Right.
Could not bar them from turning in the assignments late because of connectivity. Again, some of them may not have connectivity today, but they may find a way of getting connectivity tomorrow. So we could not apply deadlines. So these were the little nitty-gritty things that came up. I also agree with Dr. Sina in the sense that the programs which were equipment-based, like engineering, medicine, where they needed to be in the labs, that was a big challenge, because the students could no longer go into the university and use the facilities. So those programs had to be put on hold. Or academics had to find other ways of helping the students get through their course. So it could be paper-based, theoretically applying a lab a subject to a more theoretical-based kind of subject and things like that. So those were the challenges. I again concur with Dr. Sina about finance. I'm not going to talk about the finance again. It's a very sensitive issue, but in terms of content, in terms of safety, these were some of the things.
Yeah. So I'll just add a little more there. There has been absolutely no compromise, and I'm sure all the academicians will agree on this. There has been no compromise in the delivery, and to facilitate, like what Dr. Sharon said, to facilitate those students who could not attend classes while the class was in progress. The good thing is almost all these interactive platforms allow you to record the lecture, and it is available later on for the students to go back and kind of watch it. So whether it is WebEx or Zoom or MST or whatever platforms we are using. So therefore it was easy for the students to always go back and read about it. All we had to do was to make sure that our testing was done in a manner that ensures that the learning has happened. Whether it's through caselets or case-based studies, or so because it's open book.
Yep.
And, it's absolutely open book and open web, to be more precise. So therefore, we just had to focus on that part, and somewhere students have also come to understand that, hey, there is no such thing as a waiting game now. You better get your act together, and the onus is now more on them to hold their fort of learning. And we now have really gone back to the role of just being facilitators.
And learner-centered learning actually is far more effective, actually, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Belle, coming to you. So what concerns did your parents have? I mean, they've invested again in your education. And so what concerns did you and your parents have with regard to you doing this totally digital-based learning?
My parents are definitely questioning having to pay full fees for the semester. I understand, because there's a lot of facilities at the actual university that I'm not utilizing. We have, from what I understand, I've never stepped foot onto campus, but from what I understand, there's a swimming pool on campus that I haven't been able to use, and so on. The library, on the other hand, at the end of the day, you're paying for an education, and I'm definitely still getting that education, a quality one at that. So it's it's a real balance. Like I can't decide. I think it makes sense to lower the fees because we're not using the facilities, but at the same time, how much of the fees is for the facilities? How much of it is for the actual education, which we're absolutely still getting.
That's great to know, really. I'm not in the academic arena, but also in an adult learning and training, corporate training. And I have had people saying, so what's your fee for this? And I'm saying it's the same because really, ladies, you know, the academics here, we actually have to put in more work, don't we? Yeah, you have to put in a lot more work now because you have to keep engagement. Online engagement is so different from classroom engagement. I can stand in a classroom and tell a story and everyone gets a rapport, but over here, you know, you don't know who is really there on board with you. Yeah, so I think what is the true test of whether this system works is the assessments. If the assessments are producing the results, then I think that is the true test. And, you know, other things, we should just, as Belle says, achieve a balance here. Now, next question I'm going to ask you is, now that we're into the recovery MCO, to some people it's a big relief, but to some people like me, I've got a newborn in the house, you know, my daughter's just given birth, I've got an octogenarian in the house, so I've got all these high-risk people in the house, and I'm like petrified that everyone's going back. Public transport has been resumed. I'm walking past restaurants and everybody is behaving like nothing has happened. So coming back to that we're now in recovery mode, does your institution intend to reinstate classroom learning in full as before, or are you going to continue with the way you're doing this, you know, digital learning for a time? How's it going to be?
Okay, I think that we are going to go back. I just finished a faculty board, and it was announced that we will be going back in phases. So literally, I go back to work at the end of the year. Next year, I believe that we would probably be administering a lot more of blended learning. Because students still want to come into classroom and meet us and knock on our door and ask us, you know, pop by and ask us questions. So that's going to happen a lot. Because even right now, students are telling me, giving me feedback and saying that, you know, we miss being in your classroom, we miss meeting you, we miss coming to discuss and consult you on certain problems, certain issues and explanations and things like that. So I think we will probably be practicing more blended learning and maybe take on a flipped classroom approach in some classes.
Okay, Dr. Sena?
Yeah, so I'll just take a step back before I can answer this as to why it's becoming, you know, more urgent for us to come back to the campus. One thing that I've also understood across these 4-5 months is that we as a faculty are a little uncertain about the coherence of the learning that the students are, you know, we are not very sure if they are following what we are saying. They all log in and we don't know whether they are there. So just like how Dr. Sharon just said, students are very eager to come back and meet us and talk to us. For us, communication has always been the look and, you know, the touch and feel thing, look in the eye and understand. See, more often than not, as teachers, we've also had this experience. We don't really have a student who comes and says, I don't understand. In fact, we look at the student and say, hey, it doesn't seem like you understood. How can I help you? Now, we miss that in this online training. We do miss that. And so therefore, there is that bit of an emotional turbulence that we are all going through, both as facilitators and for our students' sake.
Yes.
But given the situation, and that going to be there for some time, I don't think we have a choice with that. So between the devil and the deep sea, I think we got to get friendly with the devil, and you know, and somehow survive till we learn how to swim well. I think we are partially ready to dive in, but it will need a lot of hand holding. Thankfully for us, in a country like Malaysia, we do have an education system, or we have the ministry who's also directing us as to what should be done and what should not be done. We kind of had a circular that came in last few weeks back. And so I think they're also doing it, you know, in phases and letting us take over one after the other. So clearly we can't take face-to-face classes till the end of the year. So that's definitely not going to happen. But the faculty would be coming back in phases to the university.
Yes.
Final year students, if they wish to, for their projects and for their final lab requirements, we will be calling them in little by little. So if a lab have accommodated 10 students, now the lab will accommodate only 3.
Yes.
For to maintain those SOPs. So yeah, we are ready as a university to take on whatever challenges are going to face us, or whatever directions come to us. We will follow it one by one, because I believe a lot of thought has gone into how the government is also reading out the directives to us. Yeah, so I think we are in a manner ready for it, and little bit of it will also be like how doctor said, we'll have to tweak it a little to suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't hold on. We can't be very rigid and say, no, it's now inscribed on the rock and we're not going to change it.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do that anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, can I just say, Sheila, that another thing that's important is what Dr. Sina said was the assessment of students. Because that we cannot see them face to face and we cannot assess them physically in terms of like passing up work and whatever else, it has become a bigger challenge for all of us to actually assess them online. So we have to give them regular work. And that also takes a toll on both us as academics and them as students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Now,
Yeah.
Belle, what about for you? What's the university's take? What's the directive that they've given you now that the restrictions have been very much eased? And are you ready to go back onto campus for classes or?
We've heard absolutely nothing about going back. The university said that they're waiting for government direction and that they'll let us know after that, but we haven't heard anything. So for now, we're still continuing online. The good thing is that our exams aren't till next year in May, so we have time. We have time to continue online. But God, I'm raring to go. I'm ready to hop into a classroom.
That's good to know, and I think that would be the sentiments for both of you academics as well, for your students, right? Okay, so on a more general basis now, I will tell you a bit about my experience. Last year, before all of this hit the fan, I actually embarked on an online program, a digital program, a postgraduate diploma actually, and it was my first time doing a digital program. I was petrified navigating through the platform and finding my way there. And I was like, I don't know whether I can do this. 2 weeks into the program, I don't know if I can do this. And then we had to collaborate with people from other parts of the world to do our assignments and all. But after that, I became kind of like a pro, right? And I said that I become a bit addicted to digital programs. And in some way, I actually prefer that, where I don't really have to interact, but then I'm a lot older. And I think that as this goes on and becomes something that's more and more acceptable, more and more people are going to sort of say, I think I want to go that way. Now, so do you think this going digital, right, will be an opportunity for your universities to actually go borderless and expand business opportunities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think we have been delaying this for a long time as a sector, because of what the preference of the population is. Because everybody else wanted it in the classroom manner, I think we did not move out. But I think blended learning and digitization of academic delivery is the next big thing. I'm not saying that we're going to scrap off the blackboard and the classroom. No, that is to continue. But I think sooner or later, students will be given the offer. Do you want it digital or do you want it classroom? Either ways, you get it. And you get both under one roof. As of today, it's all being done under two different roofs. It is the next thing. I think this was a big wake-up call for many of us as decision makers in academia. I think Dr. Sharon will also agree with me on this.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the way to go. I think this was a test bed for all of us. But I also want to say that there are subjects, I believe there are programs or subjects or courses that will be changed to digital. And one of the examples I gave earlier on in our behind the scenes chats was the fact that I taught a subject which was solely on the virtual platform. And I do this once a year. And that made it so much easier for me to navigate myself through this. So we have a couple of courses which are completely online. So my university generally is very comfortable doing it both ways. So I think this will be, like what Dr. Sina said, this would be the new way of doing things.
But Sheila, if I may add, and I'm a statistician and therefore I cannot resist the data. Having said that, while we are moving upward, there is something that we must be a little cognizant about. And I was looking up a little data for another study of mine. And honestly, and you will agree with me, more than 60% of our students don't have an access to a laptop.
Yes, that's true.
Also, I've also get to know that more than 55 to 60% of the families have just one laptop at home. And if they have more than one kid at home, that means online classes is definitely going to be a challenge for those families. And most of our teachers also, honestly, across the globe, about 70% of our teachers are not even ready or prepared for this kind of a transition. But some of them manage to do, and I'm sure those numbers exist in Malaysia also, and also with tertiary education. Yeah. So, and one other very important group that we may have left out is those children who are differently abled. How are we going to manage them? For them, coming to the university was a very important thing. How are they going to cope up with? So, having said that, I mean, these are all snacks to chew on and to think about it. But yes, if those are also looked into, I think we would be holistically prepared to digitize our sector. Yeah.
If
And
I can just,
yes,
sorry.
yes, Belle, please.
If I can just add on to that, at university, you have the facilities of computers ready for students to use, and that is actually, you can't overstate the importance of that, because you can have your device at home, but even if you have a laptop at home, the environment isn't right, it's just not conducive for learning. I personally it makes a lot of sense to have those facilities available to students, just because it really helps the actual learning experience.
That's good. The thing is, my question was actually relating to, in the past, we looked at the traditional ways of doing business. You are a business after all, an education institution. So it was that classroom conventional way. But this whole episode in our history has forced us all to pivot. And you've had to go digital, solely digital. And of course, it's not feasible for some programs where there's lab work and so on, where people need to be in a lab experimenting. But for many programs, you can actually go solely digital and get a degree, because there are lots of universities with, offering those kinds of programs. So this would actually allow your universities to go borderless.
Yes.
So not just being confined within Malaysia, but you can have students from, anywhere in the world. And you could
Definitely.
and you could even offer that blended possibility, like once a year you come here for like 2 weeks to catch up on, So I'm saying that in some ways there has been a silver lining in this entire cloud, because it's given us opportunity to innovate into a new arena, into new business income streams that we can go for. Now, Belle, I'm going to ask you one question here. Moving forward, now that we know that many courses in universities have gone digital, and there is this option, do you think students in the future should be given an option of go fully digital, do blended, or go classroom learning? Do you think that's an option that students should be given?
Yes, because in every circumstance, there's a student who responds best when they don't have to deal with transport. There's the students who live on the outskirts of the city, but there's also the student who has ADHD and needs to be in a classroom to pay attention. And then there's the student who, maybe like me, enjoys the flexibility of choosing whether or not to pop into a classroom. So yeah, absolutely. I think that choice makes the most sense for students. And yeah, if it doesn't affect the learning, there's absolutely no reason not to, I think.
Dr. Sharon, Dr. Sina, what do you think? Dr. Sina?
Yeah, I think that has to happen. And not just that, even today, I think with some of our students who had gone back home to their hometowns for their semester breaks, couldn't return because of the travel restrictions. And they're all now, about 30% of our students are international. And out of that 30%, a good 80% of them are all operating from their own countries. So whether it's India or Sri Lanka or Sudan or Pakistan, we have students from all over. And yes, and this kind of reinforces the fact that yes, it's not so bad after all. Students can study from where they are, and yes, there are some things like an industry interact or a corporate connect that might be missing because you are not seeing somebody face to face, and so that elevator talks may not happen. Yeah, but definitely, if we can open up this facility for the students, I think you are very right, Sharon, Sheila, in saying that we should have these three openings for them. We should give it to them, fully brick and mortar or blended or fully digital. I think that option should be given up to the student. That's the way academics should be going if we are looking up the line of business. Yes.
That flexibility, yeah. Dr. Sharon, anything to add?
Definitely, I agree too. I think students should be given the allowance of what they want to do, a choice of what they want to do, whether they want to do a blended learning or come into their classrooms. But, for academics, in response to what Belle said, she would like to choose whether she could pop into the class. I personally would love to see her in the class, at the end of the day, seeing her, talking to her and discussing things with her, rather than just completely online.
Having her
That humanistic touch needs to be there.
Needs to be there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great to know. So before we sort of round up and open up the floor to questions, any final words? What we've talked about today is, well, this has given us academic institutions as well as students more flexibility. It's going towards a learner-centric way of learning where students actually have to manage their time and be disciplined to know when to come on and so on. For the faculties, it has made you, it's caused you to need to be more alert because, you need to really be more focused on seeing whether your students are on board and they're getting it and getting what you're saying. Also, at some points, there's blurred lines because I think it was you earlier in our pre-conversation, Dr. Sharon, where you said that students are calling you at 3 a.m. and you feel sorry because they can't just pop into your office. So, and in Malay, as what they say, you layan them, entertain them because you're feeling, and that's passion. I think, that's a passion for teaching, that you're able to give up your sleep to entertain a student, and that's really incredible and amazing. But we all do what we need to do at this time to facilitate our clients, and they are in a way your clients, your students. Any final words to offer? Maybe Belle, we'll start with you. What anything that you would like to talk to your peers out there, people who are studying, and it's not the best case scenario. So what do you have to say? Share.
Something that I say to myself and to other people a lot is to be kind to yourself. And it's easy to forget when you're, sitting in your bedroom alone that we are in fact in the middle of a pandemic and a huge crisis worldwide. So it's okay to go easy on yourself. And I think we can really forget that sometimes in the rush to like hop onto a class, even if you haven't eaten yet or you need to do something else. It's okay to go easy on yourself. That's probably my takeaway message from having to do this is even if you're doing this online, you're still allowed to focus on you.
Good. Thank you for that. Dr. Sharon?
I think I totally agree. I mean, we shouldn't forget ourselves as much as we want to put our all into teaching and educating our students. And as much as it's my passion as an academic to see my students succeed, but we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves, we should cut ourselves some slack.
I totally agree, Dr. Sina.
Okay.
Any final words?
Yeah. So Sheila, I'm going to use this platform to actually congratulate all the faculty members across the world, who have stepped out of their comfort zones and done wonderfully in the last 3 months. I think we've always looked at doctors and janitors and all those people who are the frontline, warriors as they are called. But I think there were a bunch of soldiers at the background also who were making sure that the students' education and their semesters are not delayed. And they've also done very, very well. And I think I'm very proud to belong to that community. While I'm doing that, I think we should also congratulate and be appreciative of the students who are not used to this kind of study. They are more used to somebody telling them what to do, when to do. And in less than 2 months, I have seen a Herculean change in them, you know. It's fantastic to see that now they are more on time, because I remember the first initial classes, they would log in 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. Eventually, there's a connectivity issue, comes in whenever they wake up in their pajamas. But now you see it's very different. You see more, they are more active. They're in the class before you, actually, you know. So it's very nice to see that change. And I'm very proud of the way the students and the teachers have taken themselves forward. So I'm going to use this platform to say a big thank you to all of them. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well said, ladies. Thank you very much for your great insight in answering all those questions. Now I'm going to open up the questions. The floor to questions. There's one question. Someone has asked a question of Belle. Belle, as a student, online learning has probably been a different new experience. Are there any tips or things you have done in your own learning process that has helped you ease into online learning?
That's a really good question, because it's been a massive learning curve for me to go from, the routine of class, home, that whole routine, and then going to home, but studying somewhere in between. But what's been really helpful for me is that I have my study area. So I have my desk, I have my device. That is my study zone, and I only sit there when I'm studying. And it sort of kept me in that sort of, it's almost like a classroom mindset. It's like my body has been trained to recognize that as study area. So when I'm actually sitting there, I'm studying, and then as soon as the class is over, I get up, I leave. If we're having a break, I get up from the chair. I'm not sitting there. And that sort of trains the mind to really get used to studying only, and only studying and not, doing other things, and then stepping out of it when you're done, so that you're not sort of thinking about study all the time. That's been a big one for me.
Yeah, in the work that I do, we call that anchoring, and that's something that I use for working at home as well. A particular space in your home where when you sit down, you get into work mode, and when you step out of it, you are in relaxation mode. So it's very useful tip. Dr. Sina, Dr. Sharon, anything to add to that for your students?
Shall I?
Yeah, Dr. Sina.
Yeah. Like Bella said, be kind to yourself. That's a very good message, I think, Bella's given. And because, like us, the students are also very overwhelmed by what is happening around them. So, very importantly, is to get up and take a walk once in a while. Like most of us do give their coffee break. So, I actually tell them, take a break, walk, go fetch a cup of coffee, and come back. So, to take those regular breaks, to go for their walks, which otherwise was built into the design in the university. Now they don't walk as much, they don't exercise much. So I think, yes, that's very important. And of course, to get off the system after 3 or 4 hours. It's very important to take that break, otherwise it's going to manifest in other ways later. So I think health has to be taken care of first. And go easy with yourself. This too shall pass.
Yes. Dr. Sharon, anything to add?
I think also the important fact is, let's not forget that our students are humans as well. And as much as you want to get them in the zone of studying and learning and whatever else, we also need to remember to ask them how they are. And I think the care and concern that we have for our students should be manifested, not because we are online and we have to teach them online, but because they are also going through the same things as we are. They are also going through the isolation and the RMCO, and some of them are isolated from their families as well.
Absolutely.
If you have like foreign students or students who cannot travel back home. Yeah. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when we shouldn't just be teaching and trying to figure out how to finish the syllabus or the semester or the exams, but also to remember to just ask them, hey, how are you doing?
Yes.
And as you are saying that, Dr. Sharon, the word that's coming to my mind is empathy.
Yes.
I think more than at any other time in human history, we all, in all our dealings with people, We might be removed physically, but in all our dealings with people, empathy has become so important. Because it's easy to miss the signs when you're talking to someone on the other side of on the screen, you know. But that initial question, how you doing, how you're coping, anything I can do aside from the academic, you know, part of things to assist you. Do you need to talk? Try not to call me at 3 a.m., but if you have to, that's fine too.
I just want to share an anecdote with you, Sheila, that
Sure.
I tried this. In the beginning, it was all about trying to figure out, you know, maneuver my way around using the different gadgets and getting my students online. But then eventually I realized that I had to then start my lecture by saying, are you okay? Are you all right? How are you dealing with this? Have a kind of a 2-minute, 3-minute conversation that had nothing to do with the class. You know, and then end my lecture with telling them, look, I'm here. And if you need to talk or you are anxious about anything, forget that I'm Dr. Sharon Wilson for a moment and just think of me like, you know, your big sister, your mom, and tell me what's troubling you. And it has helped. It has truly helped. It has.
I can promise as a student that you're our favorite lecturer.
That's wonderful. Good.
Okay. Thank you so much, ladies. I don't think that we have any other questions for today's session, but it's been very, very enlightening. So I'd like to thank Dr. Sharon Wilson from University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Dr. Sina Biju from Manipal International University, and Belle Hulan, who is going through an LLB program from the University of London with a local university. Thank you very much for taking the time out today to join us at Human Equation on our session, our webinar, web forum, Education Under Lockdown. And all the best to all of you in the new norm.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Take good care of yourself. Bella, all the very best for your studies. And Sharon and she, it was a wonderful time. I'm sorry for having switched your names on and off, but
no worries, no worries.
That's fine.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.